Kamil, pleasure to meet you again.
Great to see you as well.
With a bit of break.
Good to see you as well. Yeah, we had a little bit break because it's summertime.
Yeah,
so
summertime.
yeah,
So
absolutely.
everything. So anyway, good to see you again. So today we could talk a little bit about injuries, sport injuries or injuries in general, basically. Something which both of us know very well from the sport, and a little bit go maybe into the depth, your own injuries, how it affected you, how it affected your sport career, or how it affected your just normal life.
Yeah.
If you're okay with that, what do you think?
Yeah, that's fine. Absolutely.
So,
I mean,
yeah.
yeah. In terms of my injuries, I had quite a few injuries from wrestling, and I had quite a few injuries from strongman and CrossFit as well. Especially when you go to the maximum, often. You get the injury. You get the odd injury. The first really big injury which I had was broken leg. It was the bottom part of my leg, and it was completely fractured. It was completely fractured of I think it was tibia, and I had my whole leg in cast for about 3 months or 4 months. It was the whole summer, and it was horrible. But it happened with wrestling. When I was wrestling, I was actually warming up for a competition, and I was warming up with a German guy who also needed to warm up and a little bit lose weight, and he was heavy a little bit, and he did basically certain move. My leg stayed stuck on the mat, but both of us were rotating, and the leg stayed. So the leg was rotating, leg stayed. So it was a rotational snap, and it just snapped. You could literally hear it. And that was not nice. Obviously, the whole summer I had to stay home with a cast, and it affected me. Of course, it affected me. I couldn't go out with friends. I couldn't do anything. I was 14. Maybe 14, 13. I mean, it was the time when in summer you can't wait. You go with friends all the time. You go to a lake. You go do things. And I just couldn't do it. So not only it affected me physically, but it certainly affected me mentally, emotionally. Obviously, a few times my friends came to visit me, but it wasn't enough because most of the time I had to be home, and I think my parents were working, my brother was going to school, so it wasn't so often. I was reading, I was a little bit actually exercising on my upper body when the things got a little bit better, but it was certainly not a nice and pleasant experience. And once they took the cast off, my leg was thin, completely thin. I lost so much muscle. It was just hair and skin. It was funny. It was looking really ridiculous. But it took me a while to rebuild it. But eventually I rebuilt it and I got back to wrestling. So it didn't stop me. But that was quite early in my career. So I was young, my body was young, 14 years old.
So you're healing very fast.
Yeah, you're healing fast. It didn't stop me. I needed some time, maybe half a year to get back. And after half a year, I was back. So maybe three months in cast, another 4 or 5 months, to get back to it. Slowly started wrestling and so on. I mean, it's not perfect. It's still the leg remained a little bit shifted. It's not exactly how it should be, but it was good enough for me to have wrestling career for all the way. Yeah.
And I don't know, do you remember, it was a long time ago, do you remember what kind of support did you get that time, or who was the one who was kind of supporting you or giving you some kind of advice on it?
Well, I must say it was just my family was there, like my mom was there. I didn't get that much support from an actual club team, like I think I can't really recall that I would get support that, let's say they would send a doctor or something. I just had broken leg. It had to be rested, and in terms of mental support, it was just my family. It was just my mom, pretty much, and a few friends who came and but I didn't have any other support.
Yeah, well, at that time it probably wasn't so advanced. People didn't take it as far as these days.
Yeah, I think these days it would be maybe different. But I was 14 as well. Perhaps they took me as a kid, I wasn't necessarily like, it's not like you are well paid
athlete,
top athlete, it would be maybe a different story, but you're 14 years old kid. Yeah, it's a shame, but you need to recover, you have massive cast. So, I was reading and I was, as I said, I was watching TV, I guess, and I was exercising on my upper body because I could lay down and I had some weights, which my granddad created. I think I kept myself a little bit in shape on my upper body.
Yeah, that's excellent.
Yeah, and then another kind of bigger injury was way later down the line when I was, 32. I got broken the cartilage at the bottom of the ribs, and that was really. So I was wrestling match. It was a wrestling match in German Bundesliga, and the guy crushed my ribs, and then he tried to turn me. And as he was trying to turn me, I was really defending, but somehow his bone went through my cartilage and snapped it. I heard something, so I let go, and I had to stop the match. Obviously, he was injured and it was painful to breathe and so on. So it wasn't broken ribs, but it was the cartilage.
Yeah, cartilage. Yeah.
The story with that is though, next week we had another match, and I remember then that the coach, he was a sound guy otherwise, but he was a tough guy. So the coach said, you need to wrestle next week, because we need you. There will be all the sponsors. It's an important match, and we need you for that match. So there wasn't much consideration of my recovery.
Yeah.
And because, I wasn't perhaps able to say easily no to him, I did come, and they gave me 5 or 6 steroid injections or something. They gave me some injections to kind of numb it, and so I don't feel it. And I ended up wrestling week after I ended up wrestling, and I think I got it worse because now I have quite big lump there, and it's kind of callus, which creates calcification.
Yeah.
So you need to sometimes look after yourself, but he was quite a big figure in a club, and he asked me, Kamil, we really need you because we have this, and I wrestled with him, with it, and I don't think I did any better to it. I think I should really recover it as it was. So that's the story with that. And then recently I had another big injury. We're talking recently, maybe 3 years ago. 3 years ago, I think it's now. I ripped my bicep. So you have 2 heads, and the outer head I completely snapped. It went down all the way, and it was in one competition called Tribal Clash in UK, and I was competing with a team, and we were throwing stones over the shoulder, Atlas stones, big concrete stones.
Strong
and
men do
and the weird thing was that I actually injured myself on relatively light stone. It was 60 kilo stone. Mm-hmm. I was able to throw before 95 kilo stone over the shoulder, and this was 60 kilo, but this one was for speed. This was as many reps. We had maybe 2 minutes interval, and we were rotating each other on that stone and do as many throws as we could as a team. And I think what happened, I underestimated the 60 kilo, and I used too much on my bicep. I don't think I really applied a good technique to it, and because it was, maybe I underestimated the stone, there was one throw, when I threw it, I felt something in my shoulder. It felt weird. It was almost like a dislocation. I did a few moves, but then it was my turn again, and people cheering up, come on, and you think, it's okay, and because you are so warm and so into that, I picked up the stone second time, and as I picked up with the full force, bang, he's just went.
Snapped.
My bicep snapped. Instantly I had a big kind of lump at the bottom, and I knew that I snapped my bicep, so I had to obviously retreat from a competition, and that was an injury which made me think a lot. Because the reason being is that up to that point, my identity was very much connected with my performance in sport.
Yeah.
Up to that point, I always call myself kind of athlete, or I've been always competing, whether it was in 20 years as a wrestler, or it was maybe 5-6 years as a CrossFitter, or even 8 years as CrossFitter, and it just made me think that I can't keep this identity. Like I had it in my head that I need to be performing.
Yes.
I need to be a good athlete. This was how I defined myself. Not completely, not in a full sense, but I certainly, one of my aspects of my identity was that I am competitor. I am athlete. I'm doing some sort of sport, and I'm competing in it, and I'm trying to win, and I'm good at it. And I had, I think, a realization that, this is not going to be forever. This injury set me back and made me realize that I need to let go that, it's time to let go. I don't know, I was 38 then, and I was like, maybe it's time to let go that identity. I don't need to I don't need to keep that. I need to compete. I need to be good at it. Because this is how a lot of people saw me. They saw me as a good athlete,
leading kind of figure.
Yeah, and competitive, and it's almost like you don't want to let them down by not doing it anymore.
Exactly.
It was a point where I had a little bit of realization that I just need to let go. If people ask me next time, I say, I still train, but maybe I'm not competing.
Yes.
They might be surprised. Oh, really? You're not competing anymore? Yeah, I have different priorities. Or it was the time when I needed to make terms with my own head.
Adjust.
Look, this is not gonna be forever. I can't push my body to these limits and forever, basically, because this could happen. Injuries happen, and the problem is I can't go 80%, 90%. I go absolutely flat out. I give everything up to every ounce of energy or strength I have, I put into that. Once it's competition, it's competition. I do absolute best, which means I'm pushing my body to absolute limit, which means if my body is not prepared for it,
suffer.
Because in training, I don't go always 100%. In training, I go 80, 90. So when you go 100, suddenly your body is not prepared, and it's for a little bit longer time. Suddenly, you get injury. I wasn't as conditioned anymore as I used to be for the other competitions. So I got this horrible injury. But luckily today it's back. I'm fine. Now it's 3 years since, and I'm training. But since then I'm not pushing to absolute limit.
Yeah.
There was only once when I was in Helsinki last year in November or December. I was going again 100%, but that what made me realize again that I was so beaten after that competition, because it was 3 events first day, 3 events in the second day. That's like 6 tough events where you go 100%. You absolutely give everything. And one event was like 6.6 kilometers running in up and down cross-country run in like -2. It was crazy. I was so destroyed by that run because I was quite heavy at that time. I was 105 kilos and I was running this 6.6, and I'm not used to run. I don't run normally, but it was there. And my joints in my hips were so stiff, completely, like my legs were stiff. So it just made me realize I'm not anymore prepared for such a level of intensity over 2 days to have 6 events.
That's
I never do that. I train maybe 4 times a week. 4 times a week now I train. And to have that in 2 days, 6 events, where you go absolutely give everything because you are competing, and my mind can't recognize that, you're not anymore, that condition, so you need to... No, my mind see it as, you competing.
Yeah.
You go 100%.
Yeah, you go there. Yeah. So we would say basically that different injuries happened in different life or time frame, basically, and they affect you different way.
Yes.
Like you said, when you were younger and you had an
bounce
injury,
back.
yeah, you bounce back. You didn't even think about that
Yeah.
one. Everybody
Yeah.
tell you you're gonna be okay.
Yeah.
You're young. You recover very fast. Then the injury happens a little bit later. You still bounce back because you're still full
Yeah.
of energy, but maybe you think and see things different way.
Yeah.
And then the last injury happens when you in that age where you start thinking, wait a minute, I maybe don't want to do this anymore or can't do this anymore because I'm not sacrificing as much time to that preparation as I should. And like you said, you prioritize different things in your life, I mean, business, family, things like that. So yeah, and I have a very similar experience. Basically, same thing that when I was quite young, I had like football injury. Although I was doing martial arts, but I had a football injury where I had minor tears in my ligaments in my knees, and I was in a cast as well. You know, and suddenly I had to stop doing what I like to do, which that time I was quite angry because I see all my friends training, and suddenly I had to stop. You know, so. But again, people around me, same like you, were telling me, okay, you're young, you're gonna recover, you're gonna be alright. Then I had another injury, my back injury, which messed up my sciatica nerve and all other issues. It was same thing basically, and like you said, I was thinking different way because I had injury before, so I knew how to deal with that. So mentally, I was slightly different. Although still young, still trying to kind of get there and smash everything. I was eating ibuprofen 800, every day, couple of them. And then later stages, small injuries, fracture bones.
Yeah.
And again, I got punched a couple of years ago where my rib went out from the cartilages, similar like you had a big bump there, and it hurts like broken rib, although it's not broken.
Yeah.
And then it stopped you again.
Yes.
And like you said, injuries can really affect you, and then you come to the certain point, like you mentioned, in certain age, when you say, look, I probably don't want to do it anymore competitively. I don't want to go to the maximum because it hurts, and then it affects your life. It maybe take time off from your work, from your family, and you start thinking different way.
That's
so
right.
I fully understand what you're talking about.
Yeah. And you are now treating injuries.
Yes.
You're now treating injuries. It's mostly through acupuncture.
Yeah, I'm a massage therapist, so I do massage sport, massage therapy, and acupuncture as well.
Yeah. So, what type of injuries you see the most?
You have injuries, kind of two types, either sport related or injuries happen every day. You're lifting something, or you're lifting your baby, or you're lifting a heavy luggage, or.
Would you say it's mostly back-related injuries?
Yeah, it's a statistic. Back injury is one of the most common injuries in society, and again we can go ask why. And the obvious reason is because our bodies are not prepared well enough. We're sitting every day.
Yeah,
just
we're stiff. We're getting stiffer and stiffer, but just by sitting, and then we try to be active, but the body is still stiff.
Exactly. Exactly. We were not designed to sit for a long time. So we were designed to stand, walk, run, or squat down, but not really sit.
Yeah.
So back injury is definitely number one. And then you have shoulder injuries, neck injuries, which again I think is related to the posture, because our abdominal muscle getting weaker and lower back getting much more stiffer because the posture as we sit or as we walk, as we stand. And then obviously people have mobile phone, which always the head is down because you're looking into it. And you're creating kind of repetitive strain on the part of the body. So lower back, neck injuries, shoulder injuries, and then the specific injuries depends on the sport. Knee injuries, a lot of sport people have knee problems, ankles. But the back injury is definitely something which is very, very common.
What would you recommend to people to prevent it? To, whether it's you can perhaps say for people who are practicing some sport where there is likelihood, like football or even like martial arts, and then so that's one way maybe. for those people how to prevent it, and then for regular people how to prevent it. What would you suggest?
So for sport people, the most important I think is the correct exercise. You can see it probably in the gym or in your career. A lot of people go to gym exercise, but they don't have the right technique. They try to lift heavy weight. The body posture is, let's say, not correct, or the body is not prepared for that weight because they take it straight to a different level, and then the injury happens. Then the injury happens. Same in martial arts. When I teach self-defense, I pay a huge attention to right technique at the beginning. So no rush, take your time, right technique, put the frame of the body behind, understand which muscle group works and how it should work, and then later on you can add more into it. But the correct technique and understanding your limits, basically where you are. So that would be for sport people and
for regular people.
And for regular people, going back to sport people, again depends on how high you want to get with your performance or what's your level of your performance. But very important on top of the exercise, it's your lifestyle and rehabilitation, relaxation. So having that treatment from time to time, going for a massage, going to that sauna, do a lot of stretching, so you counterbalance what you're doing. So these are very, very important things if you want to prevent the injury. And then for normal people, what I see, common problem is that people don't have a good muscle tone. They don't have a good body structure because of their job, so they don't exercise. They don't do any kind of exercise at all, some people. And then when you're sitting all day in that posture, let's say we're talking about the neck or a back problem, you're sitting all day in that posture, your body restructures slowly if you do it every day. So we know that your lower back becomes very stiff, your abdominal gets very, very weak, and you're getting to that posture which is again not natural for us, and the people get injured. So training for exercise, and even if you just walk every day for 30 minutes,
activities,
but you have to
moving
do some
your body.
kind of activities, exactly like you said. So that's what I would say for common people, exercise. But again, if you don't know what's the correct exercise, go and find a personal trainer. Even if it's just for a couple of lessons, he can give you the adjustment. He can tell you this is best for you, and you can carry on.
I agree. I completely agree, because someone who never had a trainer or never been part of maybe a club or a sports club, or he never had a coach who actually a little bit show them how to squat, how to deadlift, how to lift the weight, how to do all sorts of things. You are setting yourself for injury, perhaps, because I've seen all sorts of things in the gym. Every time I'm there, I'm trying to tell them, and but yeah, if people are not sure, this is very good investment. I think it's very good investment to have a coach, even if it's for 5 sessions, where you get like a nice structured program, and with certain exercises, and that coach is going through each exercise, and so you make sure that you're doing it right.
And probably he assessed you as well before that. He can tell you that this type of exercise is better for you because your legs are weaker, or so things like that. So it is important.
Exactly.
And the other thing, what I would say as well, when we're going back to it from a perspective of people who are not top athletes or they don't train every single day, is I think the kids these days doing less and less sport. And obviously from your own experience, that it is very, very important to have a sport, to play some kind of sport when you're a kid, when you're a young person, because that's when you're developing your motoric skills, you're developing your strength, your balance, everything. If you're missing this one in the early stages,
that's right.
It's much harder when you start exercising when you're older or middle age, because these things missing, and that can create injuries as well. Because if you don't have a good motoric skills, if you don't have a good balance, if you don't have certain muscles are not developed as they should,
reflexes,
everything.
Absolutely,
you're prone to injury.
Agree. Yeah, you're prone to injury because you don't have the foundation. Exactly. The foundation is built when you were a kid, and you built all these things, as you said, motoric skills, strength, balance, reflexes. kind of understanding your body, coordination, accuracy. All these things are developing from a young age.
Exactly.
And now, if kids are watching their phones, playing games, sitting, watching TV, they're setting themselves for later, maybe not injury if they don't do any sport, but even then they will have at some point injuries. At some point they will have to basically pick up something or do some awkward move or run somewhere for a short burst and boom.
That's it.
It's there because there's no foundation, there's no base. So yeah, I completely agree.
And on the other hand, these days there is a study which tells that older people, talking about elderly people, 70 plus or 60 plus, how important is to keep up with some exercise, some kind of strength building exercise, or Tai Chi is a very good example where you're working with your body weight, slow movement, and they figure out that the rate of fall, because one of the most common problem with the elderly people is they're failing,
Yeah.
they're losing the balance, the muscle are not strong and fail and break something and then going down the hill.
They have already very, very frail bones as well.
Exactly.
When they fall, they break.
Exactly. So let's say exercise
Healing way longer.
Exercise where they're using their own body weight can improve their skills and the balance.
And I add to it also exercises with their assistance, with some weights. It's strengthening your bone density, because you are applying forces on your bones and on your joints. So those bones need to get stronger, stronger density. So it's really highly recommended to do weight training, because your bone will be healthier, and stronger, and perhaps even more flexible, and so on. It's really beneficial. Now I move a little bit discussion towards, once we have the injury, what do you advise person? Let's say he comes with injury to you. What do you advise them from that moment? Now he's got the injury, you treat them. What do you advise next for that person?
So first thing, when somebody comes with an injury, I always ask them if they checked it out with a doctor, GP, and if the GP referred them to some specialist. But this is very important to understand that for you, injury may be something else than for our Joe Bloke out there. So for you, the injury would be something like your torn bicep. But for somebody else, can be injury just they hit their arms into the mirror, or hit their arms into the chair, or something like that. It's hurting. So there are different levels of injuries. So I always suggest to people to first go and have it checked out properly. Checked out means if something is hurting, if it's a musculoskeletal, have at least that X-ray. Okay. If it's hurting for a longer time or really it affects your day-to-day life, you have to have scan like CT scan or MRI scan, some kind of imaging. When we have all the information and we know what type of injury it is, then it's much easier to heal it and treat it. Okay. But one of the worst things is that people come, they have certain injuries, they don't go to the doctor, they just think or they Google themselves, or they have just kind of vague idea what it is. Then it's very difficult actually treating the injury. Kind of treating more the symptoms than the actual problem. So first of all, always we need to establish what kind of injury it is, and once we know the level of the injury and what is it, then it's much easier to treat. And once we start treating it, I always say there is not just one way how to treat the injury. So you can have a massage, you can have some rehabilitation work. Obviously a lot of the mental state play a huge role in the healing. Because if you're not in the right mental state, if you're under stress, then the healing gonna be much slower. If your diet is not right, you don't sleep enough, the healing gonna be much slower, or is not gonna go according your imagination. So there are a few aspects into the injury.
How would you get them to a better emotional and mental state when they just had an injury? They're probably down, probably depressed about it. They can't go to work, or they can't kind of carry on with the sport. How would you change that state for them to see it positively, or be in the right state of mind?
You need to be quite frank with people and again, if you know what type of injury it is, you need to tell them, like, look, this injury gonna take you 2 months to get over, or if it's serious, it's gonna take 6 months to get over. And you have to set them some kind of goals, so they can see, let's say, in 1 month time, you're gonna be able to move that finger a little bit more. In 2 months time, you're gonna be able to move, let's say, if you're talking about arm injury, move all 5 fingers. And once they're getting into the level and they see it's happening, their mood gonna improve. But again, it's the surrounding around them. They need to kind of give them a love and cherish them, and very good is to show examples or set examples. Somebody who had similar injury, somebody famous, and tell them, look, it took him this and this time, but he went through and followed this and this regime and routine. And as long as people have some kind of not goal, but if they see improvement, even a small one, and you tell them that this is how it happens, people are all right. But it is very individual. It's the same, like you said, that in your injury in different age, different timeline, and a different mood, basically can affect your body different ways. So
that's true.
But again, very important that they need to fully understand what kind of injury it is, what happened to them, and how we're gonna treat it, or how they can get out from it. Once they understand it and follow the plan which the therapists give them, it should be there.
Yeah. Cool. How do you see the treating processes or treating methods right now in Western culture?
I think it's a very high level. These days we have all the equipment, tools and machines which we never had even 20 years ago. I'm not talking about 50 and 100 years ago. So I think it's great, and we can really pinpoint the problem. What is the problem? What kind of injury it is. Very good diagnosis, and as I said, we are quite lucky what we have these days. People didn't have before. And then obviously again, it's that follow up. How you follow up after the injury? What you're gonna do with that? You really want to get through it as fast as possible, or you're just gonna be crying every day. So these days the Western medicine is very high level, especially with injuries. And I think still that, because I'm doing the Eastern medicine or the non-conventional medicine, I think that the combination between the alternative medicine and the Western medicine is very important.
I was going to ask that. I was going to ask, how do you implement the Eastern medicine into this Western? Like, where do you see that it's kind of work together, or it kind of contradicts? How do you see it?
It should work together, but the reality is not always like that. But it should work together. So we have all the science and all the equipment these days, which again can help, but that complementary medicine is slightly more. It's as well your spiritual thing, your emotional thing, which can help a great deal. So the combination of the two is the way forward, I think.
Yeah. Nice. And I'm kind of interested. You're obviously treating people with acupuncture.
Yes.
What does acupuncture do in terms of treatment?
Acupuncture, if we look at the Western kind of idea, it promotes the blood flow, the in Eastern way promote the chi, the energy flow. So it speed up the healing. When we insert the needles around the injured place, we stimulate the nervous system as well. The nerves response is much better. Again, it open much more capillaries, bring blood to the injured area, which speed up the healing anyway.
Okay.
Plus, we can work with acupuncture. We can work on a psychological element as well. So we can help you sleep better. We can help you deal with the pain. Acupuncture is very good for pain management. And these days they use it. Sport people use it. They use it in military. You have the famous battlefield acupuncture, which is basically a few points on the ear, both sides. the soldiers are treated, or it's added as a form of pain management into it. As well, sport people, as I mentioned, or famous people use acupuncture. So very good for depression, stress, anxiety.
Okay.
So we can, through the acupuncture.
How does that work? How does that work with, let's say, stress, anxiety, when you obviously put the needle in? How does that relate to stress? Do you put it into a very tense area, or how does it work?
Well, in Chinese medicine, we always need to try to figure out where the stress comes from. What is the cause of the stress? Not just the manifestation. People tense up because one of the most common manifestation of the stress is.
Let's say it's organs. Some people haven't got very well functioning organs.
Yeah,
it could be stress from organ.
Yeah, it could be definitely from the organ, but we try to figure out where is it. Is it you can't sleep?
Could be lifestyle.
Yeah,
could
definitely.
Be from work.
You can't sleep.
From relationship.
You can't sleep. Let's say because. You're eating so much bad food evening before you go to bed, and you have just that heat, and maybe that acid comes up every evening. So we try to deal with this. Or you have a lot of, every evening you have that couple of glasses of wine. Maybe you should go less, and your liver is not functioning as it should. Or as I said, you have the tension in your neck and shoulder, which give you this tension headache. And people can't sleep for that. So we try to figure out what causes these things, and then we try to treat it. It's a longer process than just give you a painkiller or a sleeping tablet. But if the people are really willing to go that extra mile, we can get there and treat it through the acupuncture. But again, about acupuncture we could talk maybe another time. There's plenty of things to talk about. But the main thing is that with the alternative medicine, acupuncture, I think we're trying to get into the core of the problem. We try to treat the core of the problem. So that's the main thing.
Okay. Have you got any more questions for me?
I don't think so. I think you mentioned maybe one more question. What do you think, or what do you see injuries wise in your gym? What is the most common, or what the people approach you with?
I see very often the people are very stiff, exactly from the sedentary lifestyle. So stiffness is very close to getting injury when you're doing certain activity, especially when you do something like CrossFit or wrestling, or if you stiff everywhere, your body can't function in a full range of motion. So when the activity brings you to full range of motion, something gives, so they sometimes pull the muscle. I see very often pulled muscle in back. It could be pulled muscle in your hamstring. It could be in your calf. It could be, so, I think because of the stiffness which they bring to the training, because of the lifestyle they're leading, or we leading, we are in a car. We can say we are in a car on a tube, sitting. We go to office, we're sitting. We go to discuss something, we're sitting.
Yeah,
we go home and watch TV, we're sitting. Or we speak to our partner, we're sitting. We're constantly sitting, except of that half an hour, maybe 1 hour training, when you say, well, I need to do something. So you go down the gym, but you sit or lay down. Yeah. When you sleep, you lay down 8 hours. Rest of it is you sitting, a little bit walking, and then one training session, very high intensity, or often it is high intensity.
Yeah.
And your body something gives, because it's stiff.
Going to this one, good that you mentioned. I was reading recently that now the CrossFit was a boom a couple of years. It's still a boom, but they see more and more people having injuries from CrossFit training. Do you think this is one of the cause of it, that basically people go there and they sit all the time, or they're not so active, and they go and they push everything into it? And
sure, it's certainly one of the reasons why they get injured. I always say, in terms of CrossFit, you hardly put your arms overhead in your life. You hardly put something on the top of the shelf. Hardly.
Yeah.
Object, weight.
Yeah.
Some sort of weight. And in CrossFit, suddenly we want you to do presses overhead, holding, bar overhead, and doing actually squats with this and things like that, or even snatch and things like that. So you hardly have your arms over the shoulder or over the head. Hardly. Most of the stuff is here. We're eating, we work on computer, we're looking at something, we're reading book, we are putting songs. You hardly bring your arms up throughout the whole day, then week, then month, and then you come to CrossFit and we want from you to do Olympic weightlifting. We want you to do gymnastic stuff like pull-ups, toes to bar. So there must be a process of developing this foundation first. Because if you jump too early onto these exercises, you are asking for injury because something gives. Because your body is not used to in that position. Suddenly you are overcoming weight and resistance in a speed often. It's asking for injury. So that's why we are trying to be very, very careful in our boxes. Making sure that we build our members slowly up, and we have to rein them back often. They want to do certain things, they're not ready for it.
That's right.
So you can't do that. You need to do this regression first. You need to use dumbbells instead of barbell or things like that. So this is what I see, that some people who are sometimes too eager and go too intensive into the exercise and didn't build properly the strength and the balance and the structure which you need for it, then you can get these injuries. Yeah,
you're absolutely right. I see the similar in martial arts. What I do, that people come in, they don't have that base, they don't have that foundation, but they want to do something. What they see,
or they get excited. Get excited, or they get really sucked into fight or into kind of kumite or something. Or they get excited about this workout. It's 12 minutes workout, and they just want to do well. There's their friends there, and they want to beat them. They can see on a board, and they just got sucked into this. And it's a good thing to be competitive in a sport. I like it myself, but again, even I realized I'm not in that shape anymore that I can push my body into such an extent. So you need to know yourself. It comes back to that. It comes back to ability. Know yourself.
Exactly.
But this is not just physically, but mentally. Know who you are. What's your values? Know yourself well. What is important to you? Is that really important for me, being 40 and winning all these competitions in masters category? Is that really? Maybe it is. And for some people it is. But then they really train very hard every single day. That when the competition arrives and they need to give 100% performance, they're ready. But I can't have only 4 sessions a week and then go to competitions with 7 events over 2 days. Going 100% ham and expecting I'll be fine after that. I'm asking for other injury, or I will be ruined for a week. I can't move for a week because everything is stiff. So I think you need to build that with a moderation and with, it takes its time.
Agree.
Everything takes time. So
agree. Fantastic.
I think we kind of covered a lot. We are 43 minutes. We are just below the 45 minutes mark, which we said we would do. But
if anybody has any question,
exactly. I hope we kind of answered most of the questions about the injuries, and I thought it was quite an interesting conversation. I enjoyed it personally, and I hope you guys enjoyed it as well. And get in touch if you have any questions. Just maybe send us a comment under this video, and also you can get in touch, like this video, share this video as well with others who this could be maybe beneficial for, and get in touch. It's all in the links below, and we'll be happy to also make a topic next time which is of interest of you. So just give us some feedback, and we'll be very happy to listen and come up with more and more topics. So
fantastic. Thank you very much,
Tibor.
Pleasure again.
As usual.
See you next time.
See you next time.
All right,
guys. Take care.
Take care.